Hello everyone, Michael Williams here. We're going to be getting started in just a couple of moments. So I thought I'd jump in here a little early and get us ready to get started today on this topic of the cumulative power of taking small steps. And one of the things that I want to do, if you see me looking over to the side, is because I want to type something into the chat box here, something that I feel like is going to be extremely helpful for you. I've recommended a couple of books, and one book that I'm going to recommend to you now is called, let's see, what's the name? Little Habits, Small Steps, Small Steps. Yeah, I think that's the name of it. No, it's called Many Habits. Many Habits. Okay, I'm typing that in for you. Many Habits. It's a book that I highly, highly recommend. Highly recommend this book. Okay, Many Habits. I'm going to see if I can get the author's name now, so if you just give me a moment. Amazon. Many Habits book. Yes. Let's see. Yes, this is it right here. Okay, so I'm going to grab a link here and paste this into the chat box so you can take a look. So this is a book that I highly, highly recommend. I found this book last year, and I was pleasantly surprised because much of what you're going to find in the Pro 90D speech system parallels what you find in this book. So I bought this book, many years after I developed the speech system, but I've also learned a lot from it as well, and you'll hear some of that in some of my later videos. But you'll also find as you go back through the system, because the system has been around for I don't know how many years now, you're just going to see it supported in this particular book. We talk about habits, and we talk about the brain, and we talk about all those things. So this is one book I highly recommend that you get. I recommend this book. I also recommend The Little Book of Talent, another very, very good book. So I'm going to Amazon now, and I'm going to type that in, The Little Book of Talent. I'm going to paste the link for that. And this is another, really powerful, powerful book. Okay. Another extremely powerful book. That one didn't pop up the same way. Let me just... Yeah, okay, good. There it is. And there's some other books that I've recommended as well, but here's the other one. If there were 3 books that I would recommend to you, it would be these 3. And I recommend that you, if you're able to, get an Audible account and see if you can get the audio version of these books, right? Because the tendency is, if you read them once, you'll be lucky. Some people will read them and they'll go back through. Now, I have 2 versions of the book. I have a written copy in Amazon, and I forget the name of it, but where I can go and I can read it in my Amazon reader. So I have a printed version and I have an audio version. If you get something in audio, you're more likely to listen to it multiple times. You're lucky if you read a book once, right? So you'll digest, synthesize the information probably more, and you'll synthesize more of the information if you listen to it, because you're going to listen to it multiple times. You might read it once, maybe twice, if you're lucky. But for those of you that can't or don't want to, then at least get the written version of this book, of these books. And you're just going to be blown away by the studies that are used to build or to create these particular books. And you're going to find a lot of parallels in these books with the Pro 90D speech system. And I've also not just read these books, but I've gone and looked at some of the studies and just done a lot of research myself over the years, so that I didn't just read a book and then say, okay, this information is valid. I went out and did a lot of research myself to find supportive and supporting research to these books that you see. Hello, Ahmed. How are you? Thanks for joining us here today. So we're going to go ahead and get started, okay? And I'm really going to hold this today to about 30 or 35 minutes. So today we're going to be talking about the cumulative power of small steps. And the book that I'm highly recommending you get is Many Habits. Many Habits. And there's something called Kaizen, K-A-I-Z-E-N, Kaizen, taking small steps. Do some research on that too. There's a book out on that. But the idea here, hey Rumpum, how are you, man? The idea here is to break down what you're doing into small steps. Why? Why is that important? And does taking small steps mean that you can't completely immerse yourself? And the answer is no, right? So let me explain, and then I'm going to actually share with you a few things that you can do to ease yourself into, if you're not already in this process. And even if you're in this process of improving your speech or anything else, you can use some of the ideas and techniques that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So let's take a look at this. When we're talking about taking small steps, what we're saying is that you're going to resist anything new for the most part. If there's a new skill or if it's a new habit that you want to develop, there's going to be some resistance. Your brain is going to resist that. And in many ways, this is a good thing, because we would not have any stability in our personality, or we wouldn't be able to have patterns of things that we do so that we don't have to consciously think about it, right? So having this stability, or what we call homeostasis, is very, very important to our survival, and it allows us to conserve energy, right? Mental and physical energy, when we can develop patterns, right? And we can hold those patterns and not have to think about it. When we reach automaticity, we don't really have to think about it. That's very important. But what happens is, when you're trying to develop something new, a new way of thinking, a new way of speaking, for example, you're going to experience resistance, right? Mental and even physical resistance. So what's happening is that your brain operates off of really electro signals, electrochemical signals. It's actually sending electrical signals back and forth between the neurons. And these signals, once they've developed a pathway, right, a route, if you will, and they build that pathway, then the signals become stronger and faster. So the way that you're currently speaking has a neural network. It has a neural pattern to it. So now it's just very easy, unfortunately, for you to speak the way you speak now, to think the way you speak. That's how you do it. So when you're trying to now create a new way of thinking, right, that is not thinking that you have to rush, that you have, not anticipating that you're going to get stuck, slowing your speech down, extending, modeling, right? When you're trying to do that, what ends up happening is you're building now a new neural network, right? You're creating, so the area of your brain that manages speech and thinking and all those things is now trying to remap itself, is trying to create a new pattern, a new network. And you're going to experience resistance, right? Because there's already a network there where the electrical impulses are just traveling. It's nice and easy and it's smooth. So now you're trying to develop something new, and it's more difficult. There's resistance there, okay? There's a lot of resistance there. This resistance you feel internally, like, this feels strange. This isn't me. I don't want to do this. You physically will feel more tired. Why? Why? Because your thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, like just behind your forehead here, now has to be activated so that you consciously say, I need to slow down my speech. Prior to that, you would just speak the way that you spoke, right? You'd speak fast, you'd stumble, get stuck, whatever it is. Now, you're consciously having to focus on what was before an automatic activity, right? You'd automatically speak and think the way you spoke. Now you're consciously saying, I need to slow down, I need to do this. What that means is that when we have to consciously think about something, it requires more energy, right? Your brain, even though it's a relatively small organ, it requires a lot of energy, especially when you have to think. So if you notice, when you're learning something new, when you're in school, or if you're in training, by the end of the day, or if you've had a lot of meetings, you can be extremely tired, especially if you've had to process a lot of new information, if you had to analyze, if you had to think. You're physically tired because your brain can use a lot of energy. Glucose, right, uses a lot of energy. And so as your brain uses more energy, you actually feel more drained physically, mentally, and you also have less willpower, right, because you're more tired. If you have less willpower and you're more tired, then it's harder to hold a new way of speaking. It's harder to extend your words. It's harder to model. You're just too tired to do it. So one of the things that you have to do is realize that this is the case, right? Realize that as I'm developing this new speaking style, I may feel tired, right? Because my brain is going to be using more energy. Why? Because I have to now consciously think about how I'm going to speak. Not forever, just temporarily, but I have to consciously think about the way I'm going to speak. And therefore, I'm going to feel more tired. I'm also going to feel resistance to this new way of speaking because, right, the pathways haven't been developed. So that physically I'm developing, I'm forging, I'm like growing new pathways in my brain. And this growing of new pathways experiences a level of resistance, and it takes energy, and so you're going to feel tired from that. You're going to feel resistance to that. All right? So understanding that this must be the way that it is, right? It must be that way. You must feel tired. You must feel resistance. You must feel like this is strange. This is not me. You'll also maybe even start to think that other people think it's strange, which usually isn't the case, but sometimes it is, and it doesn't matter because they'll adjust, right? So you understand that this is the case. This is the case. This is the process that I have to go through. Once you understand that, then you are more likely to be able to deal with it, right? To persist, to persevere, because you know it's a process. If you don't understand that this is a part of the process, hello, Moy, then you'll be like, okay, why is this happening? Why am I experiencing so much resistance? I don't really want to do this. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm trying to do it, but I can't. I don't feel like it. Once you know, oh, hey, okay, I know I'm going to feel tired because I have to constantly think about how I'm going to speak. I have less willpower. I don't really want to do this now. Well, I know that, so I have to try to work around that and work through that. So you understand it, you know it, so now you're prepared for it, and now you have realistic expectations. This is the reason why. Please share this video. Invite your friends to this Facebook group. This is the reason why when you try devices, when you try to go to people that tell you in 3 days we're going to cure your speech, even when you do all those kinds of things, what happens is, Ahmed, I'm going to get to your comment. It's a great comment. When you do these things, it simply is not true. It's just not the way the brain works, right? It's not going to happen in 3 days. You get a device, your brain's going to adjust to that, right? And you're going to all of a sudden be right back to where you started, but you're going to be out several $1,000s. You got to go through this process if you want to learn a new way, unless you want to walk around with a device for your entire life. And even then, for many people, it stops working. So let's talk about then, well, let me get to this comment here. Ahmed, I think having strong reasons to become an excellent speaker is somewhat helpful in reducing the resistance. Man, was just talking with the client, Sakshi and I. Thank you, Sakshi, for joining. I know it's late for you there. Sakshi and I was just talking to a client today about this very thing. So I do want to kind of step aside and talk about this just for a moment. Your reasons why are very important. In my book, right, Don't Stop Stuttering, Replace It Instead, it's a very, very simplified version of the system, but one of the things we talked about is, why do you want to become an excellent speaker, right? Why? So let me just encapsulate this. Those of you that have a greater reason beyond yourself, right? Greater reason beyond yourself to improve your speech, you will persevere longer and you will be more successful than those who have purely selfish reasons. And that having purely selfish reasons is human, right? So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm saying you will persevere longer and you will probably be more successful than those that have just purely selfish reasons. Like, okay, are we back? Good. So, if you I just want to get over this, this is a pain, I don't like it, it's not comfortable, then what's going to happen is you are going to struggle much more than that person that says, you know what, I want to improve my speech so that I can improve the lives of others. I want to improve my speech because I want to become a teacher, because I want to become a speaker, or something that's going to serve, that's going to impact positively the lives of others. Those of you that want to improve your speech for those kinds of reasons, it becomes a calling for you, right? It becomes a calling. It's a passion. And you're going to be more driven to work on your speech because it's something beyond yourself that you must do. A good friend of mine named Tom Harrison, he says, what is it that you must do? Where you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do it whether you're paid or not. You're going to do it for free. You're going to do it because you have to do it. You're called to do this. You, no matter what age you are going to want to begin thinking about your calling, right? What am I called to do? And chances are your calling is going to require you to speak. Not necessarily, but chances are it's going to require you to speak. Once you tap into what you're called to do, and if your calling is going to enrich and empower and expand the lives of others, and therefore you're going to need to be able to communicate clearly whatever your message is, you're going to need to be able to have an impact on their lives, you're going to be more driven, because you have more reasons, like Ahmed said, more reasons to become an excellent speaker. This also helps with inferiority complex, feeling inferior, low self-esteem. If you're around someone and you start to feel a little inferior, just remind yourself, hey, I'm serving people in this way. I don't have to be as good as that person. I don't have to be good at everything. I can just be good at one or two things and become extremely good at these things and serve other people. And if you remind yourself of that, it'll instantly boost your self-esteem. You won't feel inferior because, again, you don't have to compare yourself to other people, but we do it sometimes. But you know that you're good at something. So here's another piece of advice I'll give you. Pick something and become an expert in it. Pick something and become a genius at it. That has helped me so much. Once I took the focus off myself and started focusing on becoming a genius, becoming a world-class expert at something, I no longer focused on myself. I started focusing on how I could serve other people. How can I develop my speech? How can I develop my skills and my knowledge so I can serve other people? Once I did that, I stopped thinking about me and am I going to get stuck on what are they thinking about me? No, I'm thinking about how can I serve them? How can I give them more? How can I equip myself, right? Once you shifted your focus off yourself into helping other people, it completely transforms your identity. It gives you more confidence. When you feel inferior, you just think about what you're doing and how you're serving, and boom, okay? This is so important. This is so important. I can't even hardly explain how important this is to your speech, okay? All right, so let's get back to now the cumulative power of taking small steps. So we talked about the brain a little. I want you to go back and watch that and study that because it's very important that you understand and that you set your expectations based on how your brain works and the resistance that you're going to experience. Now, small steps. Small steps. Here's a specific technique I'm going to give you. Modeling is the key. If you want to transform your identity and you want to do it relatively quickly, quickly could mean a few months, could mean 6 months, quickly in the span of your life, right? If you've been struggling with your speech for decades, and within a year, you've completely transformed your speech, well, that's a short period of time. I've seen people do it in less. Modeling is the key to doing that. So if modeling is hard for you, don't circumvent it. Don't avoid it and just go for the techniques. Techniques are necessary, but modeling is the key. Remember, going back to what we said about how our brains work, yes, you're going to feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to be hard to do at first. So what do? Small steps. Pick one conversation, one person, 1 minute, right? One conversation, one person, 1 minute. Go out and say, today, I'm going to pick a conversation with one person, and I'm going to focus on modeling just for 1 minute. Now, if you haven't been practicing modeling, it'll be hard, right? So you literally have to go in, and you have to make a mental imprint of your model. You're going to find this in the little book of talent. They're going to talk about spending time, how all of these athletes and all of these experts around the world spent time studying someone else's work, or studying how someone else did something. So this all has a solid both psychological and scientific backing. The way that you learn to speak in the first place, and the way that you learn many of the things growing up, before you learn how to read, is you modeled, you observed. So it's our natural way of learning and acquiring knowledge, right? I believe last week or week before we talked about mirror neurons. As you're watching someone do something that you're familiar with or that you know how to do, the neurons in those areas of your brain actually begin to light up. So as the image comes through your eyes, right, the optical nerves, it's transferred and transformed into signals, those areas of your brain that's registering what you're looking at actually begin to light up. So it's almost like you're doing it, okay? So it's making literally a mental imprint on your brain when you're watching and studying how your model speaks. So you're watching, how does this person move their face? How do they use their eyebrows? How do they smile? How do they tilt their head? How do they use their head? How do they use their hands to help kind of conduct their speech? How do they articulate when they're speaking? What about their speed? What about their rhythm? How do they modulate their voice and inflect? How do they emphasize things? Well, let me just practice. And you can't get all of that at once. So you watch their video and you pick just little parts, just a few seconds. You watch it and you mimic it. You practice it. You keep doing that. Keep doing it. You keep watching. You keep listening for the rhythm, and you practice. Right? That's why I have people memorize something so you get the same words so you can match the same rhythm. Eventually, though, you want to take your model style and use your own content, right? You don't memorize their content. You use your own content, but you just pull up an image of your model. How would my model say this? You just focus on your model. You don't have to think about the words, right? You just think about your model, and you'll be able to do it. So the reason we talked about this is because we're talking about taking small steps. So one small step to transfer modeling into your everyday conversation is to just proactively go out and pick one person, one conversation, 1 minute. I'm going to model for just 1 minute. Hello, Bob. How are you? Sakshi, I'm going to get to your comment too. Great to see you, Bob. One person, one conversation. Okay, one person. I'm just going to model strong, model hard for 1 minute. Boom. When that minute's done, you don't have to model anymore if you don't want, right? But you might decide, oh, okay, I want to keep modeling. But I know that you can model for 1 minute, even 30 seconds, right? I know that you can do that. Again, remember, it might be hard, there might be resistance, but you can do it. So if you can do it for a minute, then guess what? You can do it for 90 seconds, right? And then you can do it for 2 minutes, and so forth and so on. So it's also in developing the habit of modeling in your conversations. So by just picking one conversation, one person, 1 minute, you create a habit of modeling with people. And now you'll find this referenced in the book Many Habits, right? He talks about this. So one thing I want you to take away from this is modeling may seem like this big thing, and I try to do it in every conversation, and I can't, and I forget about it, it's frustrating, it doesn't feel like me. Just pick one person, one conversation, 1 minute, and model that, right? Model during that time. You can do that. Once you start doing that consistently, then expand the amount of time that you model. Expand the number of people that you model with. Expand the number of conversations with those people in which you model. Okay, just keep expanding, but create that habit first. Okay, very, very important, the power of small steps. Now, in the beginning of this, we talked about does taking small steps conflict with immersing yourself? No, it doesn't. And here's why. You want to immerse yourself in this process. So here's a couple of things that I want you to remember. You want to be an excellent speaker for the rest of your life, right? Not just for a few months, for however long you're going through the program. You want to do this for the rest of your life. I want to equate this to learning a second language. For me, it's Spanish. So if I want to be completely fluent in Spanish for the rest of my life, then what am I going to need to do? I'm going to need to speak Spanish for the rest of my life. I'm going to need to find opportunities, create opportunities to speak Spanish. Initially, I'm going to need to learn, right? I'm always going to be learning new ways, better ways to say things. So I need to build a foundation first. So when you're taking the Pro 90 speech system, your foundation really is kind of those first few months where you get in, you're affirming, you're listening to the audios, you're doing your modeling practice, you're building a foundation. You got to maintain that, because if you do it off and on, then you never really build that foundation. Remember, you already have a pattern for how you think and speak. You're trying to replace that. The current pattern is dominant, right? That's stuttering or whatever it is. It's dominant. It's there. You got to replace it. In order to replace it, there's got to be some consistency. The consistency is going to come from following this system, right, over a period of time until you've created a new way of thinking and a new way of speaking. It's consistency. It happens over time. If you do it a little bit at a time, it's going to take longer, but you can still do it, right? It's going to do it. So the best way is to just jump in and immerse yourself. Boom, listen to the audios, watch the videos, do the practice, and do it every day. Try to remind yourself to use your new style every single day, every conversation. However, in that process of immersing yourself, let's say you start to feel overwhelmed and frustrated. Well, you can still do your affirmations, you can still listen to your audio, watch your videos, you can still practice, but in your conversations you can say, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, not having much success. I'm going to just pick one person, one conversation, 1 minute, right? That's how you can incorporate small steps while you're still immersing yourself. You're still thinking about it, you're still working on it. So, back to Spanish. I want to continue to be fluent in Spanish. One thing that I used to say, and I'll still say it now, if you want to speak well, you have to speak more. If you want to speak well, you have to speak more. What I see so many people do, even people that go through the coaching, they go through and they go, whew, I'm done. And some of them regress. Unfortunately, some people regress because they stop. If I want to speak Spanish, and then I go through a Spanish-speaking program and I get to a level of fluency, and then I just stop. I don't go and create opportunities. I don't read it, I don't write it, I don't listen to it, I don't try to speak it. Guess what's going to happen to me? I'm going to regress, right? I'm going to lose. I might not lose it completely, but I'm going to lose my facility to speak Spanish fluently. Hey, Suresh, how are you? Does this make sense? So as you're going, this is not a matter of, oh, I'm going to always have to be doing all this stuff just to maintain fluency. No, this is not about maintaining fluency. It's about you becoming an excellent speaker, which is a lifelong process, right? So how do you do that? Well, if you want to speak well, you have to speak more. So you just constantly get out there and speak, and speak, and speak, and speak. Be proactive. Create opportunities to do presentations, to have conversations. Continue to do that. Don't just stay by yourself and be shy and not talk to people. Challenge yourself. Get out there. Speak to people. Get in Toastmasters. If you're in school, do presentations. If you're at work and you can do presentations, I did all of these things. I went out, went to universities and said, hey, I got a presentation that I'd like to give. Some people said no, but many said yes. I finagled myself into positions where I was speaking and teaching so that, because I knew I wanted to speak, so I just did it, right? You can do it too, right? You might not have opportunities being presented to you right now, but you can create them. You have to create them if you want to speak well. So remember, it's not about all of these techniques that you have to follow, and I got to do practice sessions all the time. Your practice will become your everyday conversations or the presentations that you have to do at school work. That'll be your practice. Or your Toastmasters presentations. Those will be your practice. Does this make sense? So what you want to do then is, if you want to speak well, then you have to speak often. You have to keep speaking. So if you go through this program as you're going through it, be it coaching or the self-study boot camp, right? You have to continue to get out there and expose yourself. The people who I find who do the best, coaching, self-study, are those who proactively put themselves in public speaking situations, right? So they're standing in front of a group and they're teaching, they're giving a presentation, they're doing Toastmasters and so forth. Those are the people who do the best. Number two, people who do the best. People who model. Model, model, model. They make complete identity transformations. People who just use techniques continue to have to struggle on and off. Their speech improves, maybe even dramatically, right? But they still have to kind of think techniques, and they're not as good as they could be. Modeling makes a complete identity transformation, right? The people who also do well long term are those who model in every conversation initially. You don't have to do this forever, but they model in every conversation. Again, maybe you take small steps. So as you're taking these small steps, they accumulate. Remember the law of accumulation, right? They start to accumulate because they're building connections. I want you to take a look at, I'm going to be posting a series of videos from my Retrain Your Brain. And we talk about how when your nerve cells are making a connection, right, you're creating a pathway, the more of a particular activity, so let's say modeling, right? You're looking, you're studying, you start reminding yourself, let me speak like my model. That intention and that action is represented by a series of neural connections, of electromagnetic or electrochemical transactions, if you will, like electrical signals. That thinking I want to model, and then modeling, you could see in your brain the electrical activity going on, building, right? The more that you do that same thing, the more that you repeat or perform that same activity, I want you to follow me here, there is something called myelin. You'll learn about this in a little book of talent and other places as well. Myelin is an insulator, and it begins to wrap the nerve cells, and it insulates the signal. So think of a wiring that's sending a signal, say a high-speed internet signal. If there were no wrapping, if there were no insulation, the signal would leak out. It would be weaker. It wouldn't be as strong. So myelin is like this fatty substance that wraps. It begins to wrap the nerve cells, right? The nerve connections. It wraps it the more you repeat the same activity. And it wraps it, and this wrapping, this insulation becomes thicker and thicker until it's insulated that signal. How you and I experience this is when something that we're learning or a new habit actually becomes easier, and there's less resistance, right? Less electrical resistance, because now the signal's strong and it's passing, boom, 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 it's going fast. Before it's like, oh, this is hard, man, this is hard, right? And once it starts, the more we repeat, it's like, okay, wow, it's getting easier. So then it gets wrapped, and it's like boom, 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 and then boom, and then it's gone, and then becomes easier, and there's less resistance, and now you reach a level of automaticity, and now you don't even think about it. You don't even think about it. That's how this works. So what does this mean to you? This means that, especially for modeling, that you have to do it, and you have to remind yourself to do it as often as possible, so that the cells will trigger this fatty substance, this myelin, to begin to wrap and insulate those cells that manage speaking and thinking and all the things that you and I do when we're speaking and when we're presenting, right? The myelin's wrapping it, and it's making it a high-speed connection. It's going to make it easier. So the more you do it, the sooner that myelin wraps, the sooner it becomes automatic, the sooner it becomes easier. Does this make sense? So this is all science, right? So this isn't just about the subconscious and repeating and repetition. There's a scientific basis for why you need to repeat something. I've just explained it to you. And you can do more research, right? And there are different people that explain it better than I do. But that's what's happening. That's why you have to repeat it. So when you go out, even taking small steps, those small steps begin to develop the habit of, okay, I need to model. Every time I speak, I need to model, even for just 1 minute. Okay, now I'm going to model for 2 minutes. Oh, now I want to model for 5 minutes. So you're creating those connections, you're creating this habit of modeling. Now, as you're doing that, the modeling starts to get a little easier. Then you'll find that what happens, Sakshi can affirm this, and so can Rupam and some other folks. The modeling starts to become easier. Now, if you stop modeling, then it gets harder, right? Then you start to regress back to your... So the more you model, especially in the beginning, the more you model, the sooner it becomes automatic. And you just keep getting out there, creating opportunities to model, right? To speak. The more you do that, the more your new speaking style becomes dominant. So if you want to, you take small steps to build that up. And those small steps accumulate into huge, dramatic changes in your brain, and therefore in your thinking and in your speech. So you can immerse yourself through the whole process that we've talked about, You can immerse yourself by every day picking a conversation, a person, a minute. You immerse yourself by studying your model, practicing modeling. You can immerse yourself, if you can, by reminding yourself, let me model in every conversation. For some people, that will work. For others, you got to take small steps, okay? Sakshi made a comment earlier, a greater cause of helping people through your speech will surely help you improve your speech. Yes, right? So we talked about that earlier, right? Something greater than yourself just drives you, something intrinsic, it's internal, it's spiritual. Very, very, very true. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Go back through this video. There's lots of nuggets of truth, things that can help build your foundation for why you're doing this and why it's working the way it is or why it's not working, right? And things that you need to do. So I'm just going to summarize the cumulative power of taking small steps. One thing I want you to walk away with, at least. Number one, if you're struggling with modeling or whatever it is, just pick one conversation, one person, and 1 minute, and model that 1 minute. And then say, hey, I'm done. I don't have to model anymore today, right? Then tomorrow do the same thing. You might want to model more, then model more. But just set a goal to do one person, one conversation, 1 minute. If you don't take anything else away, take that away. Number two, understand how your brain works when you're learning skills and creating habits. It'll make this process easier for you to bear, to persevere through. Right? You are going to have to persevere through it because of how your brain works. So once you understand it, then you expect resistance, you expect to be tired, you expect not to want to do it, you expect it to feel strange. That's just how it works. The other thing I want you to take away is modeling is the key. I'll say this in every single session. Modeling is the key to completely transform your identity. The skills and the techniques and tools are great, they're necessary, but modeling, that's... All right, I think we're back. Finally, last thing I want to do is invite you guys to the boot camp. People have said, can you have more boot camps? So we're scheduling 2 a month right now. I'm going to schedule one during the week as well, maybe in the evening, my time. I'd love to hear times that you might be able to attend the boot camps. The boot camps have been designed to give you higher engagement. You're going to be there, video, audio on. We're going to practice maintaining airflow, extending and blending, modeling, also a little bit of getting started easier, which takes care of itself when you do these other things. We're going to practice modeling. You're going to have a chance to model, and we're going to give you feedback so that you know how to model if you're modeling right. Come to the boot camp, right? Come to the boot camp. We've developed this as a less expensive way to really get coaching in a sense. So while the boot camps are relatively small, you do want to make it, right? You want to be there so you can get that one-on-one feedback. We need your support. I do a lot of things for free, but I can't do everything for free because this is what I do full-time, fully devoted to this. And it takes money, more money than what you might think to do all of these things. And one day, you're going to have your own business, and you're not going to be able to do everything for free, right? So I can understand some of you that just don't have money, maybe you're students or whatever. That's okay. That's why we do a lot of these things for free. But for those of you that are sitting back and saying, well, let me see how much I can get for free, well, we all do that, right? We want to get as much as we can. But there comes a time, and I put my money where my mouth is, and I'll tell you why, where you need to invest in yourself. And everyone who goes to my coaching, who actually does what I ask them to do, will tell you it's a good investment because you'll get the money back in jobs and in opportunities and just in a better quality of life. So I want to encourage you to attend the boot camp. And if you don't have the self-study, there's an option to upgrade at a cheaper price to get the newest self-study. When you attend the boot camp and you upgrade and you get the full boot camp course, you can attend unlimited boot camps. So if you just pay $97, you attend the one boot camp, and you're going to get some extra bonus, but you attend the one boot camp. If you pay the $97 and you upgrade to get the full course, You can attend unlimited boot camps. You also get 30 minutes of coaching, right? A 30-minute session with myself or Sakshi. You get access to a box application with all the files, right? It's like an app, it's a mobile app. You get all of that, and you get some additional stuff as well, right? So I want to encourage you to do that. I have people that tell me, you know what, I don't have any money, so can you cut me a deal, or can you do this for free? And then I hear those same people have gone out and spent $6,000. They've gotten loans and spent $6,000 on Anna Dieter's program for 3 days, which everyone I've talked to says, it worked for a few days and then it stopped working. Or people go buy devices and spend several $1,000s and they find out it doesn't work. So what I learned is that we have money to buy the things that we want to buy. I've spent over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, more than $20,000 in coaching, right? So I get coaching myself. I buy programs. So I'm not asking you to do anything that I don't do. I buy programs to help increase my knowledge, and I get coaching on certain areas of my life. So I'm simply asking you to invest in yourself the same as I invest in myself, right? You don't have to invest $20,000, but you need to invest in yourself, okay? So with that, Rupam, awesome video, Rebu, really great session, thank you. I'm wrapping it up right now. Awesome video, love the live format. Rupam, thank you so much for your participation, for being here, and everyone else. I can attest that microservices are way worth the money. It changed my life. Rupam, I hope that he'll share a story with you. I'm not going to share it because it's probably not my place to share it, but he can share his story about where he was before we started. And granted, he's still working on his speech, but he's not the same person that he was when we started. So he can tell you how much of a dramatic change this was for his life. And other people can tell you the same thing. So this process works if you engage in it, and it's well worth whatever money you spend. And if it's not worth it, then I'm committed to giving you your money back, but you got to do the work, right? You got to do the work. So I'll see you guys next time. Rupam, do you still have my before video? You know what, Rupam? I believe I might. I'm sure that I saved it. And yeah, let's talk about if you'd like to share that. That would just show people, right, that we're not faking. I'll take a look and we'll do that, okay? So, guys, thank you so much for being here. I have so much fun with you. Look forward to seeing you in the boot camp this Saturday. There's a link there, so I'll see you there.